We are still in countdown mode, now 1 week away from Beyond the Next Star, my new sci-fi romance novel from releasing. It comes out on June 23rd. Last week, I gave you a sneak peek into the beginning of the story in Delaney's point of view, and so today I thought I'd give you a sneak peek of the story from Torik's point of view, our hero. Accomplishing impossible feats while enduring debilitating injury and sensory deprivation were challenges both expected and anticipated by the young cadets training to enter the Combat and Strategic Intelligence Division of the Federation. Qualifying exams were brutal, training was rigorous, but for the few who didn't fail, drop out, or obtain an infirmary discharge, the rewards were astronomical. Torik, Loronic, Wiednar, Kenzo, Lechere, Renar had certainly reaped those rewards many times over, as evidenced by the 4 property titles bestowed to his name. He'd never been one to flinch when facing a challenge, but this order, the court-mandated appointment of an animal companion to facilitate mental recovery, was the challenge that finally made him flinch. Torik stared at the human, at the beautiful, riotous hair that sprang like coils from its head and would obviously need continual cleaning and grooming, at its tiny stature and lean form that probably couldn't lift its own weight, at the lovely gray eyes and smooth, bare skin that would need layers upon layers of protective coverings to keep it warm, and he seriously considered the merits of simply retiring from the Federation. No one would blame him after what had happened. He could return to his home in Array and resume the quiet, peaceful, unappreciated toil of plant cultivation he'd abandoned so many seasons ago, along with his dream of filling that home with a family. The store manager hefted a bound book from the counter and plopped it into Torik's unwilling arms. "What's this?" A tingle of cold dread crept across the back of Torik's neck. "Why, it's your owner's manual, of course." Of course. The Federation's Policies and Procedurals Manual was the thickest book Torik had ever had the displeasure of memorizing, and it wasn't even half the size of this tome. "You'll be the envy of all Lorien, the first to purchase a human, our newest species. She's the pilot for her breed, of course, but her domestication is progressing fabulously. They'll dispatched a harvester while she was still in transit, so until the next shipment arrives, she's the only human we'll have for a while yet, 6 care at the least. You must be thrilled." As Torik flipped through a few of the manual's pages and skimmed the table of contents, the tingle of dread that had started at the back of his neck devoured the rest of his body and intensified to nausea. An entire chapter was dedicated to heating and insulating the human's living quarters. If her room dipped below a specific temperature, Torik brought the book closer and squinted, but no, his eyes didn't deceive him. And the human didn't have tailored fur-lined coverings to retain heat. She would sicken and die. If he didn't provide her with private sleeping quarters, she would become lethargic and depressed, then sicken and die. If he didn't feed her 3 meals a day, complete with the cooked protein, vegetables, and some grain, she would sicken and die. She was even allergic to ukak, a simple seasoning. If consumed, her throat would swell, cutting off her air supply, and she would immediately die. He would kill her. Not intentionally, of course, but despite the wild popularity of owning foreign domesticated animals, he'd never even owned a zeprak, let alone something as exotic, delicate, and temperamental as this human. She wouldn't survive a week in his care. His throat tightened, his breath shortened, his chest ached, and suddenly, black starbursts shadowed his vision. Not now, not in public, not again. A loud bang echoed through the store, startling Torik back to himself. He blinked a few times, breathing past the panic and reorienting his mind. The store manager was silent now, and staring. He dropped the owner's manual. Torik gathered the reserves of his iron will. He was not afraid of domesticated animals. He did not shirk his responsibilities, and he did not flounder. He straightened away from the store manager, stepped over the dropped manual as if he'd intended to discard it so carelessly, and eased his fist through the open petting window of the human's cage, offering the back of his hand for her to sniff his acquaintance. He didn't particularly want to become acquainted. Acquaintance with an animal companion could all too easily flip to a desire for one. But that's what a normal, well-adjusted lore not on the brink of hyperventilating would do. So he did it. The human stared at his fist, blinking. She glanced up at his face and then back at his fist before leaning in and brushing her cheek affectionately against his knuckles. Her skin was newborn baby soft. His chest constricted with renewed panic. Torik cleared his throat. She's an adult female? The store manager nodded. Her name is Reshna. Fitting. Torek pulled one of those hair coils and watched with amusement as it bounced back into place when he released it. Her hair left a grease spot on his finger pads. Torek narrowed his eyes. Her hair, which he'd already noted would require daily maintenance, needed washing. How long has she been in store for sale? Torek stroked the side of her jaw with the back of his knuckle, peeking under her collar as she shied away from his touch. Her neck was chafed and red. She's been the joy of this establishment for most of Vorak. About 2/3 of the season. Torek stared at the manager, taken aback. She's been in this cage that entire time? The store manager's smile was placating. I assure you, the animal companions thrive here under my care. The skin on her arms, which had been smooth a few minutes earlier, wrinkled in tiny raised spots. A slight tremor shook her body. Is she all right? Torek's heart lurched painfully. I think her collar may be too tight. The store manager stooped to pick up the manual, licked his thumb pad, and paged through it, frowning. You've had her this long and you haven't memorized her manual? The store manager's face darkened. Reshna is the newest, most exotic animal companion we currently sell. The few who considered purchasing her weren't willing to invest in her care after reading her manual. Like most exotic breeds, she isn't just for anyone. It takes time to find animal companions like her at home, and in that time, I assure you that I've cared for her as I do all our animal companions, as required by her manual. Torek might have apologized for giving offense. He didn't know the first thing about caring for exotic animals, except that the few words he'd glimpsed from her manual screamed at him. Adult humans require private sleeping quarters and washrooms complete with excruciatingly long bullet list of requirements. Without these necessary living conditions, the human will sicken and die. And here she was, going on nearly all of Vorak in a wire cage so small she couldn't rest without curling in on herself. If she remained here, she would sicken and die. I'll take her.